Welcome to Worship Talks. Today's episode is titled, His Promise is His Presence. When I grew up in my Pentecostal family storefront church, I remember aspiring to greatness and to become great one day. I wanted to lead worship in wonderful spaces. I could imagine myself invoking people into the presence of God. I saw myself traveling the nation to share this glorious gift of worship with the world. But I think at one point I got a little bit distracted. I started to assume that God's promises were connected to people, platforms, and positions. But when we look at Scripture, we see one singular promise that is consistent throughout the entire Bible, and that is this: His promise is His presence. Look at Joshua, for example. Joshua's life mirrors the heart of worship. Joshua has been in the shadow behind Moses' leadership for 80 years. And when he finally becomes the leader and he walks into the promise, he only leads those people for 20 years. He dies at 110. My question is, can God trust you to be in the shadow longer than in the spotlight? Because when He is the goal, then truthfully, you don't know the difference between the shadow and the spotlight, because all you really want is Him. As I was discerning next steps about whether or not I would go to a certain school as a kid, I was fearful that God would be with me here, but not with me there. I'm sure you've often had that same dilemma. If you go here, will God be with you? But if you go there, will He leave you? But Joshua 1:5 tells us something that you need to remember. It says, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live. I will be with you, just as I was with Moses. Joshua 1:9 confirms that, and he says these words: do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I want to encourage someone who is trying to decide between one decision and the next. You're blessed in the city and the field. You're blessed in the north and the south. The question is, are you pursuing His presence, or are you pursuing something else? My friends, my worship leaders, those who love the Lord, I want you to be reminded of this truth. God's promise is not in a platform. His promise is not in a person. His promise is not even in a position. His promise is His presence. And as long as you have His presence, you have everything that you need.